Loathsome Catoblepas.
Catoblepas.
That's how Catoblepas is how they've always said it. So I just repeat them. I don't know if that's the correct way. I don't know the Greek. But yeah, the Loathsome Catoblepas was my very first Magic card. That was what started it all off. And there was a design by, I think it was Kev Walker, did the concept for it in the style guide. But when I got the assignment, they wanted me to make some modifications, wanted me to do some stuff, additional stuff, give it some more horns, kind of tweak the body shape. So I had to do that. And yeah, that was the first one. So it was all very scary and frightening. I was in the deep end of the pool, and I only had my water wings on, and I'm just trying to swim because even though I'd had a very full career, I'd been making stuff forever. This was magic. This was the big project. This was the big goal, and I finally got it. And the assignment went so fast. I was shocked how quickly I painted it, and I just had to do some tweaks. There were some little tweaks because I had originally made the eyes more glowing red rather than just like red eyes, and I didn't know what this creature had. So they finally determined that I needed to put a little specular highlight on the eyes so that they read as glowing, or not. So they're not glowing; they're just red. And so that was fun. But I came to realize that they did not give that card the greatest stats for the game. And the very first convention I did, the very first Gen Con after that card came out, almost like the first moment, like there was, because the con opens and you have people running into certain things to do certain stuff, and you'll have people getting into the art show to go ahead and queue up to get cards signed or maybe get a particular piece of work. So you have people that are there, and this guy showed up and he wanted his Catoblepas signed. I'm like, cool. And then he goes on to tell me how it's the worst card in the entire game, and how all of his friends make fun of it, and how it's literally the worst thing, and they love it because it's so bad. And I'm like, okay. And then like a few minutes later, some other guy came up and like, man, this is the worst card in the game. Will you sign it for me? And I'm like, huh. And literally all weekend, I had people coming up and like, congrats on the worst card in the game, man. That's awesome. And I'm like, what's going on? And they were like, man, that is the worst card. I'm like, but what is? The art or the card? You're confusing me. I wasn't responsible for the card. I only made the art, but it was for years. For years, I had people coming up to me and like, oh, worst card in the game. Man, you got the worst card in the game. I'm like, okay, thank you. And so it's like I just didn't know what to do. But everyone was so happy to tell me that my card was the worst card in the game. And I kind of eventually wore it as a badge of honor. And I was kind of sad when people stopped telling me, because that meant someone else had the worst card in the game. And for a short time, though. For a short time, I had the worst. And that was pretty fun. But it's one of those cards that it was kind of funny because I thought you would never see its like again. And when Theros, the next Theros set came out a couple years ago, they made a new Catoblepas in that set. I'm like, wow, they went back to the source material and decided they needed more of it. I think it's actually a better card than mine was, but what can you do?
I still have it.
Yeah, really? Good. But it's just one of those things. I'm like, what are you getting out of the telling me that it's... I mean, I get it if you're like, if you had a peer group and you all made fun of it and you get to meet me and you're like, hey, man, we all hate this card. I wanted you to know. And I'm like, but still, I'm like, that's weird. But the fans are awesome. The fans are great. And they it's cool to share that. It's really cool to share people's gaming experiences with them, because people do that with... I had it for years with Dungeons and Dragons, and it's always great hearing about how your monster nearly killed the party, or your monster was turned into an NPC and the players were scared by this thing, and the DM made it into a character, and that they had to interact with it, and they learned stuff from it, and like people will come and tell you their times, their fun with their friends at the table, and that has been one of the most rewarding parts of this, is that I have been part of their game. I have been at their gaming table. Never know. I would have never known, but something I've done, something I've created has made that experience better, more fun, more funny, more frustrating, memorable. It's part of their story now. It's in their head, and that's been great. And it's now I've gotten to the point, I think it was last year, that people are now doing that with my book, The Grand Bazaar, because I did a stats guide that stats out everything in my book. You can bring your game into my world, or my world into your game. And people are now doing that with my world. They're coming to me they're telling me about how they were running through this dungeon, and there was this thing, and they nearly killed the entire party, and it was chaos, and they didn't know what it was because it was something completely new, and they just didn't know. And then they find out that it was from my world, my book, and their DM had bought it, and they had thrown it in the game, and they were so excited, and they want to come learn more, and they want to read the book now. And that's been really fun, and that's the greatest part of working in games, is that I might not have time to play games anymore because I'm building them, but other people are, and they're playing games with my art, my monsters, my stories. And yeah, that's really, at the end of the day, some of the most rewarding aspects of any of this, is that I am right now in 1,000 people's games on the planet, and I'm like, that's pretty cool. That's a lot more gaming than I've ever done in my life, and that's I'm thrilled. Yeah.